The great Warburn Hall stood like a giant stone beast in the center of the capital, its black pillars rising toward the red sky. Torches burned along the walls, filling the enormous chamber with hot orange light. Hundreds of alien warriors gathered. There, their armor shining, their claws tapping nervously against the floor. The air felt heavy, as if the whole world was holding its breath. At the far end of the hall sat Queen Ravora, ruler of the Warburn clan. Her presence alone could silence storms. Her skin, marked by ancient battle patterns, glowed faintly with power. Her eyes were sharp, cold, and full of command. Today, however, a strange tension burned in them, a tension none of her people fully understood. The crowd fell silent as she rose to her feet. "Warburn," she said, her voice echoing like thunder, "our future has reached a breaking point. Our bloodline weakens. Our warrior children are no longer born with the strength of our ancestors." A wave of unease spread through the hall. Warriors shifted, glancing at each other with worry. The queen continued, "Our people need strong heirs who can stand against the darkness rising beyond our borders. And so the ancient tradition must be called upon once again." Her words struck like a shockwave. Every warrior knew what tradition she meant. Every warrior feared it. The queen stepped forward and raised her chin with regal pride. "I ask for a mate brave enough to father my future warriors," she declared. "One who carries courage strong enough to shape the next generation." A hush fell over the filled hall. The challenge was impossible, dangerous, legendary. Whoever accepted it would face trials of strength, mind, and heart, trials that had killed countless males in the past. Even a single mistake meant death. Every alien warrior in the hall stood frozen. Not one moved, not one spoke. They exchanged looks of fear and doubt. Some lowered their eyes, some stepped back. Some simply trembled. It was the greatest honor a Warburn male could receive. It was also the greatest risk. The queen's gaze swept across the hall. Disappointment darkened her expression. "Is there no one brave enough?" she demanded. "Has fear taken the heart of my people?" Silence, deep, painful silence. Her voice grew sharper. "Are my warriors so weak that none will dare?" Still, no one stepped forward. Then a soft sound echoed through the chamber. Footsteps. Slow, steady, uncertain, but determined. A figure walked out from the shadows at the back of the hall, and every head turned. It was a human man. He was not tall compared to the Warburn. He had no claws, no horns, no armored skin. His clothes were simple travel gear. Dust covered his boots. A faint scar crossed his left cheek, but otherwise, he looked like any ordinary human, and yet, he kept walking, calm, straight, unshaken. Gasps filled the hall. Shock rippled through the crowd. "What is a human doing here?" One warrior whispered, "He cannot survive the trials." Another hissed, "Humans are fragile, weak, soft." But the human man did not stop. His steps echoed with confidence, not loud, not aggressive, but steady in a way that felt almost unnatural. When he reached the center of the hall, he looked up at the queen. He bowed his head respectfully. "I will take the challenge," he said. His voice firm and clear. The entire hall erupted in noise. Warriors shouted, argued, protested. Some laughed in disbelief. Others growled in anger. The queen stared at him, confused and curious at the same time. "You are human," she said slowly. "Do you understand the risk? The trials are designed to break the strongest warriors of my species. They are not meant for your kind." The man met her gaze without fear. "I understand," he answered, "but courage is not born from strength. It is born from choice." The queen studied him. His eyes held no madness, no ego, only resolve. "Why?" she asked. "Why would a human accept such a challenge?" He paused for a moment, his jaw tightened. Something heavy flickered behind his eyes. Pain, memory, Purpose. Because someone must, he said softly. And your people deserve a future. For a moment, the queen said nothing. Then she stepped down from her throne, her towering form casting a long shadow over him. If you truly choose this path, she said, then your trials begin at dawn. The man nodded, and the hall once full of warriors felt suddenly too small for the courage of a single human. The night settled over the Warburn capital like a dark blanket pulled tight across the sky. The great hall slowly emptied as the queen ended the gathering. Warriors whispered to each other in disbelief while others stared at the human who had dared to accept the impossible challenge. He stood at the center of the hall with the strange calm of a man who had already made peace with something inside himself. Queen Ravora watched him from the steps of her throne. Her eyes studied every line of his face and every scar across his skin. She felt something she had never felt before toward a mortal male. Curiosity mixed with a faint sense of danger. Humans were known across the galaxy for their unpredictable nature. They were fragile yet somehow survived the harshest worlds. They were physically weaker yet pushed back against threats that should have crushed them. They were strange creatures who fought with heart more than with body. The queen stepped toward him and her footsteps echoed through the empty hall. The human lifted his head to meet her eyes without fear. She respected courage, and this simple human carried more of it than most of her elite warriors. "What is your name?" the queen asked. The man hesitated, as if the answer carried weight. He did not wish to reveal. After a long moment he spoke. "My name is Eric." The name rolled softly through the chamber. It sounded gentle, yet the man who carried it stood like a boulder planted in a storm. "Eric of Earth," the queen said, "do you understand what you have accepted? Many stronger have fallen in the old trials. Many braver too. Your species is not built for our tests." Eric looked up at her with eyes that held quiet storms. "Strength is not always in the bone. Sometimes it is in the will." The queen paused. The words struck her deeper than his simple tone suggested. A leader who had fought hundreds of battles was not easily moved yet. This human had already begun to unsettle her. She circled him slowly. "You have scars. They do not match your calm nature. You have seen war. Tell me what shaped you into this man who steps forward when my own warriors remain silent." Eric breathed deeply. The memories rose in his mind like ghosts rising from broken ground. He did not speak quickly. The past weighed too much. "I come from a colony on the edge of human space," he said. "Raiders attacked when I was young. I survived because I ran. Others did not. I learned that fear is not something to hide from. It is something to walk through." The queen listened closely. She saw truth in his eyes. Pain lived there, but not weakness. Only the steel that pain sometimes creates. "I joined our defense forces," Eric continued. "Fought in the Ashen Rift, served on the frontier. I learned that a soldier does not need to be the strongest. He needs to stand when others fall." The queen stopped in front of him. She had never heard a human speak with such plain power. There was no pride in his voice, no hunger for glory. Only a quiet honesty that carried more weight than any battle roar. "You think this makes you worthy of fathering Warburn heirs?" she asked. "No," Eric answered. "I am not here for worthiness. I am here because your people face a future. That needs someone to choose courage, not someone to chase honor." The queen felt a strange tightening in her chest. No male of her clan had ever spoken with such clarity. They boasted. They bragged. They promised greatness. This human simply offered himself with no fear and no arrogance. Outside the hall, a cold wind swept across the city towers. The night was deep and silent. The queen turned away from Eric and looked out through the open balcony toward the red glowing horizon. "The trials begin at dawn," she said. "Rest if you can." "Many do not sleep before facing their fate," Eric nodded. He did not move like a man facing death. He moved like someone who had already survived death once and no longer feared. Its hand as he left the hall, the queen watched him go with a thought she had never expected to feel. This human is more than he seems, perhaps far more. The first light of dawn crawled across the war-burned capital like a slow awakening giant. Red sun rays touched the stone towers and cast long shadows across the training grounds. The air felt thick with tension. Today the ancient trials would begin. These trials were spoken about in whispers and remembered in fear. Even the greatest war-burned warriors respected them. Many had entered. Few had walked out alive. Eric stood before the trial gates, his face calm, his posture steady, his heart strong. He carried no armor and no weapon, only a simple cloth shirt and worn boots. His breath formed soft clouds in the cold morning air. Behind him, hundreds of war-burned warriors gathered to witness his fate. Some watched with disbelief, some with cruel interest, others with curiosity they could not hide. Queen Ralvora approached the trial grounds with a stride full of strength and authority. Her presence quieted the entire crowd. She stood before Eric and studied him again. No fear in his eyes, no shaking in his legs, only a sense of quiet purpose. "You stand before the trial of courage," she said. "This is the first of 3. If you fail, you die. If you flee, you will be cast out in shame. If you endure, you will move on to the next stage. Do you still accept the path?" Eric did not blink. "I accept," the queen nodded. Then she raised her hand. The giant stone gates rumbled open as ancient gears groaned with age. A burst of warm air rushed outward, carrying the scent of dust and deep earth. The crowd held their breath as Eric stepped forward into the darkness of the trial chamber. Doors closed behind him with a deep, heavy sound. Silence fell. Inside the chamber, Eric walked along a narrow path carved into the rock. The walls glowed faintly with natural minerals that sparked with soft blue light. The tunnel seemed endless. The air grew warmer with every step. Eric felt sweat trickle down his back, yet his mind stayed focused. He had faced firestorms in the Ashen Rift, and he had walked through burning ruins to save survivors. Heat alone would not break him. After several minutes, the path opened into a massive cavern. The space felt alive with an ancient presence. Strange symbols covered the stone floor. At the center stood a tall figure made of shifting light. The figure held no weapon. It spoke no words. Yet Eric felt the weight of its gaze. This was the spirit of fear. Every war-burned male who faced this trial had to confront the spirit. The spirit did not strike with blades or claws. It struck with visions that tore at the soul. Many warriors collapsed in terror. Others went mad. Only a few ever endured. The figure lifted its glowing hand and the air rippled. The cavern faded. Light swirled around Eric, and then the world shifted into a memory he knew too well. He stood on the ruins of his childhood. Colony. Buildings burned. The sky glowed with fire. The smell of smoke and destruction stung his nose. He heard the echoes of screams long gone. The ground shook beneath his feet. The memory pressed into his bones. This was the day he had survived only by running. The day he lost everything. Eric felt a sharp ache rise in his chest. His breathing grew heavy. The spirit pushed deeper. More memories rose. The Ashen Rift. The frontier battles. Soldiers dying around him. Friends he could not save. Commands he could not forget. Fear tried to claw at him. Grief tried to drown him. But Eric did not fall. He planted his feet firmly on the ground. He steadied his breathing. His voice rose in the burning vision. "This is my past. I do not run from it." The flames faded. The ruins dissolved. The cavern returned. The spirit of fear stood silent before him. Its glowing form dimmed slightly. As if shocked by his resistance, Eric stepped forward. Fear belongs in the heart. But courage grows from walking through it. The spirit slowly lowered its head. The symbols on the floor flared with bright blue light. A low humming filled the cavern. The trial acknowledged his victory. Back outside the chamber, the giant stone doors opened once again. The crowd tensed. They waited for a body. They expected silence. Instead, Eric walked out upright, alive, strong, unbroken. That crowd gasped. Some warriors stepped back. Others stared with wide eyes. The queen stood still as a statue, yet something bright flared in her eyes. Respect mixed with something deeper. Eric bowed his head slightly. The first trial is done. Queen Ravora felt a powerful truth settle into her mind. This human was not just brave. He was dangerous in a way courage could never explain. The sun climbed higher in the war-burned sky, and its red light spilled across the battle platforms and stone towers. The city was slowly waking, yet every warrior who had watched Eric return from the first trial could think of nothing else. They whispered in the training grounds. They murmured in the barracks. A human had done what many of their own could not. A human had walked through the trial of courage and returned with steady breath and clear eyes. Queen Ravora stood on the upper balcony of her palace and watched Eric from above. He sat on a broad stone bench in the courtyard below. He did not rest like someone recovering from a battle. He sat upright with calm focus. He inhaled deeply. He exhaled slowly. His mind seemed quiet, his spirit unshaken. The queen found herself drawn to that simple stillness. She descended the steps and approached him with long, powerful strides. Her armor glimmered with morning light. Eric rose to his feet and bowed his head with respect. "You survived the first trial," she said. "Few warriors have done this. Even fewer have walked out with strength still in their hearts." Eric answered with a quiet tone. "Fear comes to every being, but running from it gives it power. I choose to face it every time." The queen studied him closely. His words had no flowery pride, no attempt to impress. They rang with truth. She felt something shift in her chest. Not affection, not admiration, something deeper. Something she only felt when meeting a warrior whose soul had already been sharpened by pain and choice. She circled him slowly, her eyes tracing the way he held himself. His shoulders steady, his back straight, his breathing calm. He looked like a soldier who had trained not for glory but for survival. She spoke again. "War-burned children are born into battle. Strength is their cradle. Courage is their teacher. If you move to the next trial, you must show more than bravery. You must show heart." Eric nodded. "Heart is the true strength of humans. It is what carries us through everything we fear." A soft wind passed through the courtyard. It rustled the banners above them. The queen felt the weight of her people pressing upon her shoulders. The war-burned bloodline had grown weaker in recent generations, and she carried the burden of restoring it. The old traditions demanded that she choose a mate with unmatched courage, one who would shape the nature of future warriors. Until now she had believed only a war-burned male could fill such a role. Yet her own warriors had shown fear. They had stepped back when her challenge echoed through the hall. They had looked at the ancient trials with dread, but this human stood firm. He faced the unknown with calm conviction. She turned to him and spoke with a voice softer than usual. "Why did you not tremble before the spirit of fear? War-burned warriors have collapsed in tears. They have screamed for mercy. What held you strong?" Eric looked at the horizon for a long moment. The light touched his face and revealed the quiet pain he carried, yet refused to hide. "Because I have already lived through the worst my fear could show me," he said. "The spirit only opened doors I had already walked through. It tried to break me with memories. I refused to let them define me." The queen felt the truth of his words bleed into her own bones. She understood now that his courage did not come from muscle or bone. It came from choices born in fire. He had shaped himself through hardship. He had built a spirit stronger than steel. She lowered herself to one knee in front of him, a gesture she had never offered to any warrior. The crowd, watching from a distance, fell silent. They had never seen their queen kneel. "You are unlike any male I have met," she said. "You carry wounds that did not crush you. You carry courage that needed no witness. If you continue to face the trials with this strength, then perhaps you truly are worthy of shaping our future." Eric did not step back. He did not show surprise. He simply bowed his head. "I do not wish for titles," he said. "I only wish to stand where courage is needed." The queen rose to her full height. Her eyes burned with a new fire. "Then prepare yourself, Eric of Earth. The second trial awaits you at dusk. It is not a test of fear. It is a test of spirit. It will reveal who you truly are." Eric steadied his breath. "I am ready," the queen turned away, yet her heart beat faster than before. She had seen many strong warriors, many proud leaders, many males who claimed greatness, but never had she seen a man who carried strength so quietly. Eric was no longer just a challenger in her eyes. He was becoming something far more dangerous. He was becoming someone she respected. Dusk settled over the war-burned capital, and the sky turned deep crimson, as if warning the world of danger yet unseen. The second trial was meant to begin soon. Warriors gathered in the great courtyard, whispering to each other with rising excitement. Some believed Eric would fail. Others believed he would surprise them once again. Only the queen remained unreadable as she stood upon the balcony, watching the horizon with sharp eyes. Eric waited in the center of the courtyard, his posture calm, his breath steady. He felt the weight of the trial ahead, yet did not fear it. The first trial had shown him the nature of war-burned challenges. They tested the heart rather than the body. He felt ready for whatever the second test would demand. Then the ground trembled. A faint rumble swept across the city. The banners hanging from the towers shook. The warriors turned their heads toward the sky. A deep thunder rolled through the clouds, though no storm was present. The queen narrowed her eyes. She recognized that sound. It was no natural force. Moments later, the first shadow passed over the city. Massive dark shapes broke through the clouds. Ships of unknown design. Heavy, armored vessels with glowing red engines. They flew in formation like metal predators, moving toward prey. Panic spread across the courtyard as warriors shouted. Warnings. An alarm rang across the capital. Sharp, urgent, terrifying. Eric looked up at the sky. The ships descended with ruthless speed. Their weapons glowed with violent energy. He felt the shift in the air. The war he had known on distant worlds had come here. The queen stepped forward and raised her voice. "Enemy fleet approaching. Prepare all defenses. Protect the city at once." Her command thundered through the city. War-burned warriors rushed into position. Shields rose, weapons activated. The courtyard turned from a place of ritual to a battlefield. In seconds, a blast of energy crashed into the outer wall of the city. Stone shattered. Dust filled the air. Screams echoed from the watchtowers. The enemy ships circled like vultures, ready to strike again. Eric moved without hesitation. He ran to the fallen warriors and helped lift debris from their bodies. He did not wait for orders. He acted because lives were in danger. His instincts sharpened with every second. The queen watched him with surprise. Most males would hide behind stronger warriors during an attack. Yet Eric ran straight toward danger with no armor and no promise of survival. She saw something ignite in him, a fierce resolve. A fire that matched her own. Another explosion shook the ground. Warriors stumbled. The sky grew darker as smoke rose from burning towers. Eric grabbed a discarded war-burned shield and held it up as debris rained down. A young warrior cowered behind him. Eric shielded her with his entire body. She looked at Him with wide eyes filled with shock and gratitude. "You are safe," Eric said. His voice steady even as the world shook. The queen leaped into battle. Her massive blade cut through falling rubble. Her roar shook the air. Yet even she found her gaze drifting toward Eric again and again. The human fought with no hesitation, no fear, only determination. A squad of enemy drones dropped into the courtyard with metallic shrieks. They opened fire with beams of burning blue light. Warburn warriors scattered. Some fell. Smoke rose from fresh wounds. Eric sprinted toward the drones. He grabbed a fallen spear and hurled it with perfect precision. The spear pierced through the first drone and sent it crashing into the ground. The others turned on him at once. He rolled behind a stone pillar as beams scorched the air. He moved with the skill of a trained soldier. He struck again and again until the last drone fell in pieces at his feet. The queen landed beside him, breathing hard. "You fight like a seasoned warrior of the Warburn. How does a human move with such purpose?" Eric met her gaze. "Because war teaches the same lesson everywhere. If someone must stand, then let it be me." Before the queen could respond, the largest enemy ship descended toward the palace. Its engines roared, its weapons charged with blinding energy. The entire capital quaked under the force of its presence. The queen raised her sword, ready to defend her people, though she knew the blast might destroy everything. Eric stepped beside her without fear. He gripped the Warburn shield tight and spoke with unwavering voice. "We hold the line together." The queen felt shock and something deeper pulse through her heart. A human stood at her side, ready to face a weapon that could crush mountains. He faced it with no armor, no promise of survival, only loyalty born in a single moment. The ship aimed its weapon. The ground vibrated beneath their feet. Warriors braced themselves. Eric stood tall in front of the queen. The sky lit up with deadly light, and the real test had only just begun. The sky exploded with light as the enemy ship fired its charged beam. A roaring wave of energy tore through the air like a storm made of burning stars. Towers shook. Shields cracked. Warriors stumbled as the blast smashed into the palace wall. Dust and fire swept across the courtyard with violent force. Eric lifted the Warburn shield and braced himself. Heat crashed into him like a living beast. His boots scraped across the stone, yet he refused to fall. Behind him the queen stood ready for death, yet her eyes widened as she watched the human hold against a blast that should have crushed him. Eric pushed forward step by step, forcing the shield to stay between the queen and the weapon that sought to erase them. The blast faded. Smoke rose around them. The palace wall lay half shattered. Fires burned in every direction. Warriors groaned on the ground. Yet Eric still stood with the shield raised, his breath heavy but his spirit unbroken. Queen Ravora stepped beside him. Her voice carried a mixture of awe and disbelief. "No Warburn has ever held an enemy blast like that. You are not shaped like us, yet your courage holds like iron." Eric lowered the shield. His arms trembled, yet his eyes shone with fierce resolve. Courage grows when others need it. Your warriors needed time. Now we fight together, the enemy. Ship shifted above them. Its engines roared like thunder. New hatches opened along its hull. Swarms of armored drones dropped toward the city. Their metallic claws glowed with deadly blue light. The ground trembled as they landed across rooftops and battle platforms. Warburn warriors rushed to meet them. Claws clashed against metal. Energy. Beams cut through the air. Screams echoed from wounded soldiers. The enemy force pushed deeper into the capital with relentless strength. Eric grabbed a fallen spear and charged forward. He moved like a shadow, slicing between drones and warriors. He struck with speed and purpose learned across years of battle. A drone lunged at him with a burning blade. Eric ducked, then struck the inner joint of the machine. Sparks burst, and The creature collapsed out. Another drone aimed at a wounded Warburn soldier lying near a broken pillar. Eric sprinted toward them. He jumped across rubble and slammed the shield into the drone before it could strike. The machine fell off balance. Eric finished it with a quick thrust of the spear. The young soldier stared at him with stunned gratitude as he helped her rise. "You live," Eric said. "Stand strong. Your queen needs you." Eric pushed forward again. The battle felt endless. Fire burned across rooftops. Warriors cried out. Yet through the chaos, one truth shaped every heartbeat. Eric refused to stop. His courage spread like a spark that ignited those around him. Some warriors who had begun to fall now rose again, inspired by his fearless movements. High on the palace steps, the queen saw everything. She saw how Eric fought without hesitation. She saw how he shielded warriors he did not know. She saw how he threw himself between danger and her people every time. Her heart beat with a strange force. Respect deepened into something powerful and ancient. She realized that the courage she had searched for across her clan now stood in human form. Massive metallic shape descended behind Eric, a heavy assault drone, larger than any he had faced. Its legs crushed stone as it landed. Its glowing red eyes locked onto him. Eric turned just as the machine raised an energy blade. The queen shouted a warning. "Eric, move!" The machine struck. Eric rolled across the ground. The blade hit the stone, leaving a burning scar. Eric leapt toward the drone, using the shield as protection. The machine swung again. Eric slammed the shield upward and forced the blade off its path. He climbed onto the drone's armor and struck at its joints with fierce precision. Sparks burst into the air. The drone roared with mechanical fury. The queen sprang into the fight. Her blade sliced across the drone's lower limbs. Eric drove the spear into its neck plating. The machine shuddered. Then it fell with a heavy crash that shook the courtyard. Eric landed beside the queen, their breaths heavy, their bodies covered in dust and ash. Their eyes locked for a moment. Something powerful passed between them, a silent understanding, a shared fire. The queen had fought beside champions her entire life, yet never had she stood with someone who matched her spirit so naturally. More enemy ships approached from the horizon. Yet the Warburn warriors no longer looked fearful. They looked toward Eric, a human who had arrived as an outsider but now stood as their shield and sword. The queen lifted her blade high. "Warburn, stand with the human. Today we fight for our future." The warriors roared with renewed strength. Eric raised the shield again, ready to face whatever came next. The battle was far from over. Yet one truth had already become clear. The fate of an entire clan now rested in the hands of a single human. Night fell slowly over the Warburn capital as the last of the enemy ships retreated into the dark sky. Smoke drifted between the towers. Fires burned low. The ground lay scarred from battle. Broken stone, fallen drones, wounded soldiers resting against shattered walls. Yet through all the ruin, one truth shone like a rising star. The city still stood because Eric had chosen to stand first. Queen Ravora walked across the courtyard with steady steps. Her armor carried deep cuts from the battle. Her skin showed marks of near death. Yet her eyes burned with fierce pride as she looked upon her people. Warriors lined the path before her, some wounded, some exhausted, yet all of them alive because of a human who had fought at their side with the heart of a legend. Eric stood near the center of the courtyard, his clothes torn, his shield cracked, his arms shaking from the battle, yet he held himself upright with calm strength. He watched the queen approach with quiet respect. He felt no pride, only relief that the people had survived. The queen stopped before him. Silence spread through the courtyard as every warrior turned their eyes toward them. The red moon rose behind the towers and bathed the scene in glowing crimson light. "Eric of Earth," the queen said, You were not born warborn. You do not carry our blood. You do not share our strength. Yet today you did what many of my greatest warriors could not. You fought without fear. You saved our wounded. You protected me when death stood inches from my throat. You showed the courage of 10,000 soldiers. Eric bowed his head. I only did what needed to be done. A life worth living demands choices that matter. The queen stepped closer. Her towering form cast a long shadow across the broken stone. She spoke again with a voice that held both power and gratitude. Our trials test courage and spirit. Yet today you passed a trial greater than any ancient rite. A trial of sacrifice. A trial of heart. No tradition can measure what you have shown. No record can capture what you have done. The warriors murmured in agreement. Some lowered their heads in honor. Others tapped their fists against their armor in respect. Eric looked at the queen with steady eyes. I did not fight for a trial. I fought because your people needed someone to stand. Anyone could have stepped forward. The queen shook her head slowly. No, not anyone. Only you chose to stand. Only you carried the fire that could rise in the face of destruction. Only you held the courage to shield a world not your own. She lifted her hand. The entire courtyard fell silent. Eric of Earth, you have proven yourself worthy, not because of your strength, but because of your heart. The ancient tradition demands the bravest male to father the future heirs of the warborn. Today, the choice is clear. Only you have earned this place. The words echoed across the courtyard like rolling thunder. Warriors looked at Eric with awe, respect, and something deeper. Hope. Eric met the queen's eyes. His voice quiet yet steady. I never sought this honor. I only wished to help where I could. The queen stepped closer until she stood only an arm's length from him. Her gaze softened for the first time. A spark of warmth touched her expression. Something rare in a warrior born through fire. You did not seek honor, she said. That is why you are worthy of it. She placed her hand upon his shoulder. Her touch carried the weight of her people, the weight of their future. From this day you stand as the chosen one, the father of the next generation, the soul who will shape the strength of the warborn to come. Eric felt the weight of those words settle into his heart. He had fought many battles across different worlds, yet never had he felt a purpose as heavy and meaningful as this moment. The future of an entire clan now rested on his choices. Not through duty, not through tradition, but through courage. The queen turned to her warriors and raised her voice. Honor the human. He has saved our world. He has saved our bloodline. He has earned the right that none dared to claim. A roar erupted across the courtyard, loud, powerful, full of pride and reborn strength. Warriors raised their blades to the sky. Their voices echoed across the capital. Eric stood at the center of the storm of praise, quiet, humble, strong. The storm of praise. Queen looked at him with eyes filled not with command but with deep respect. Only the human had the courage to father my future. Warriors, and in that moment, the story of the warborn and the legend of humanity changed forever.